I don't know what they have to do to prevent cyber attacks, but it definitely happened to one plant. It could happen to others.
Now at 5, the cyber attack may be over, but the JBS hack is having a big effect on farmers in Utah and across the country.
The future of nuclear energy is here.
A major announcement in Wyoming about electricity will directly impact Utah. I'll explain why.
She's driving?
They've never done this before. I mean, obviously not the car, but the girls, there's no history of it.
A 9-year-old with her 4-year-old sister in tow takes her parents' car out, headed to California.
A 9-year-old and their 4-year-old sibling who were driving a vehicle went head-on with a semi.
How the two walked away uninjured from that crash, as well as what their parents did when they found out, coming up.
And get ready for record-breaking heat plus your UV forecast for tomorrow, coming up.
And the Utah Jazz are just one game away from putting the Memphis Grizzlies away and advancing to the next round of the NBA playoffs. The Fox 13 sports team is live at Vivint Arena with a preview of tonight's crucial Game 5.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13's Live at 5 starts right now.
The world's largest meat supplier is resuming operations at its plants across the country after a cyber attack. Employees headed back to work at JBS plants across the country today, including in Utah. Today, the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency says it became aware of the intrusion on Monday and is working with the FBI. The White House says a criminal group likely based in Russia is thought to be responsible. The Biden administration is working directly with Russia's government to stop future attacks. More than 1,200 employees were idled at the JBS meatpacking plant in the Cache Valley yesterday.
Haley Higgins has an in-depth look at the local impact of that cyber attack.
The cyber attack on the world's largest meat packer shows a vulnerability in Utah's supply chain, according to the Utah Department of Agriculture Deputy Commissioner Kelly Pearson.
I've never even thought about a cyber attack on food, but it is a necessary resource.
The state has been in contact with the Hiram JBS plant, which reports that they are at or close to full production Wednesday. Pearson doesn't expect the cyber attack to disrupt the local supply chain. A national meatpacking union reported a shutdown of the Hiram plant on Tuesday and urged JBS to pay the 1,200 local employees for the missed work.
They do provide a great service to a lot of producers in Utah as well as Idaho, and they just had a rough go.
This is the latest disruption at the Hiram meat plant. JBS was one of many food processing plants impacted by COVID-19 outbreaks. The virus killed at least one employee, with at least 441 employees testing positive. Haley Higgins, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Fox 13 News did reach out to JBS, but we have not heard back. In a statement, the CEO says they are not sparing any resources to fight this threat.
The downtown Salt Lake Farmers Market will mark its 30th anniversary this weekend. Rural agricultural producers and farmers are expected to bring their crops to Pioneer Park beginning at 8 a.m. on Saturday. Craftsmen and artists will be there too. After a scaled-down season last year because of COVID, more vendors are expected. Jerome's Market will be there with their family sausage.
We were given the recipes this last year, and just thought it'd be so cool to just start it up.
Prepared food vendors will be back for lunch this year. The market runs through the end of October.
Bob, we were joking last hour, Allison and I. We said if you wanted a business idea, set up an ice stand or a water stand, cold water stand this weekend. And
not a bad idea.
You know what? And if you're going to head out to the farmers market on Saturday, get there first thing in the morning because it's going to be another hot day on Saturday. So our current temperatures here across Utah, most of us about 90 degrees. St. George still in the triple digits. We look at satellite and radar. We've got a lot of sunshine here across the state, and we'll continue with sunshine until that sun goes down around 9 p.m. Salt Lake City, over the next couple of hours, our temperatures will remain close to 90 degrees through the 8 o'clock hour. By 10 p.m., 77, and then after midnight, temperatures into the 60s. So top headlines for you on this hot Wednesday. We have record heat this week, especially for Thursday and Friday. please stay safe, especially the vulnerable population, newborns, women who are pregnant, children, the elderly, people with chronic illnesses, pets. So be extra careful here the next couple of days. For northern Utah, new this afternoon, a heat advisory has been issued that does include the Wasatch Front from Friday to Saturday and an excessive heat warning from Thursday to Saturday for southern Utah. And what about our air quality the next couple of days? We'll talk more about that coming up in the full forecast.
We have a breaking news update to a story we first brought you yesterday at 5. Police in Sandy have identified the man found dead in the trunk of a car yesterday afternoon. The body is that of 47-year-old Derek Winston Fabert of Salt Lake City. The initial autopsy shows no indication of foul play, but the cause of death is still pending the results of a toxicology report. A big energy announcement came today for the western U.S.
Wyoming will be the site of a new nuclear power project involving Rocky Mountain Power. As Ben Winslow reports, it will impact Utah's energy grid.
The project is being watched closely here in Utah, where to say nuclear power is controversial is an understatement.
Today is an exciting day.
Wyoming Governor Mark Gordon announced a new energy product for his state that will impact Utah.
An advanced nuclear power plant. This demonstration pilot project will replace one of the current coal-fired plants in the Wyoming Pacific Core system.
The Natrium reactor creates heat.
It's a new technology developed by a company founded by Bill Gates.
Nuclear power is the only carbon-free energy source we have that can deliver large amounts of power day and night through every season, almost anywhere on Earth.
At the announcement was Governor Spencer Cox's energy advisor.
We're their largest customer.
Rocky Mountain Power provides about 60% of Utah's electricity, and the governor's office is watching this with a lot of interest as Utah grows, and so do demands for energy. If it works, the Cox administration is not ruling out bringing it here.
It gives us the runway to watch, to see, to be supportive. Of course, there is Utah Power that's being engaged in this process.
But nuclear power is not popular in Utah. Past efforts to even build a nuclear power plant in eastern Utah have failed.
Utah has a legacy of paying the price for the uranium, plutonium, nuclear industry.
The Healthy Environmental Alliance of Utah says it has some big concerns about this project.
To bring nuclear power into Utah then makes it harder for us to say we don't want the waste.
They want more focus on renewable energy. While it is building a lot of solar and wind facilities, Rocky Mountain Power says it's not enough.
You can't do 100% renewable and battery power and serve 24/7, not with the current technology that we have.
The Utah governor's office says it would block radioactive waste from the Wyoming project being dumped here.
This waste is not going to come to Utah, and so we're really bullish on that. But I think it's important to remember that when we have conversations about decarbonization, nuclear is the answer.
Now, Rocky Mountain Power still has to do some economic studies before this project truly gets off the ground. Governor Cox says he favors an all-of-the-above energy approach and believes this could be good for Utah's coal country. In Salt Lake City, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Rocky Mountain Power isn't the only utility in Utah filling energy gaps with nuclear power. 26 municipalities from Brigham City to Washington City are members of the Carbon-Free Power Project. The effort is still in the works, but the goal is to connect the independent city utilities to a nuclear power plant near Idaho Falls. That would replace power from coal plants nearing the end of their life cycles.
I tell you, the Jazz do have great momentum going into Game 5 tonight against the Memphis Grizzlies, but their backs against the wall. Do not expect the Grizzlies to roll over, of course, and play dead. They've been a tough team to get
ma'am,
past.
you bet they have been. Morgan Vance is at Vivint Arena this afternoon, where there is electricity in the air. Morgan.
Yeah, you know, there's always a but, isn't there? The pregame party around here hasn't quite begun yet. Give it another half hour and you'll see this place hopping with bright orange, gold, neon green, navy blue, maybe even some retro purple, all the Jazz colors, and there's a lot of them these days. As for the series itself, Quinn Snyder's lot doesn't even want to entertain this series going back to Memphis for Game 6. They want to get it done tonight for Game 5 at the Viv. And of course, it will help if they keep shooting the 3-ball the way they have been. The Jazz knocked down 1 out of every 2 money balls they threw up on Monday in Game 4 and are averaging 48% from 3 over their last 3 wins. Those are numbers that could lead the Jazz to the NBA Finals in July should they keep it up. Then again, we've been seeing that lights-out mentality all season from this group.
I mean, we all create good looks, great looks for each other. So I think, everybody just having this confidence that, you're going to make a shot, somebody finds you on the extra pass. And, us just creating open shots for each other. That helps, drive the basket, attack the basket, lobs for Rudy and Faye. So I think, our whole, offensive mindset is playing for each other.
I'll be back one last time later in sports, breaking down the impact that Royce O'Neal has had in this first-round series. Bob?
All right, Morgan Vance down at the Vivint Arena. Thanks so much. Coming up, Davis County is doubling down on its support of the Second Amendment. What a new policy means for citizens and their rights.
Hatches on the ceiling and fiberglass casing on the supports. It's a place I would never want to be during an earthquake, and that's the problem.
When you move a fire station, you change response times. I don't see how most of us would stay afloat.
What the fire department is doing about it and why the neighbors don't like the solution.
We had people stop their cars, get out, put their hand over their heart. That gets you kind of emotional.
And after almost 80 years, a Utah sailor killed at Pearl Harbor has finally been laid to rest. See how the community showed support today.
Davis County has voted to provide a strong defense against any government infringement on the Second Amendment rights of its citizens. County commissioners passed the new Second Amendment policy last night. Today, we spoke in depth on Fox 13 News Live at noon with Davis County Sheriff Kelly Sparks about what this change will mean for the citizens of Davis County.
This policy is not a response to any particular order or law that we've seen come out recently. Rather, it's part of an ongoing conversation that I think has been happening in our community for a long time.
Weber, Uinta, Utah, and Wayne counties have all similar policies. Last night's vote in Davis County was unanimous.
Utah's public lands are near the top of the Biden administration's conservation agenda, and it could change how you work or vacation in those areas. State experts discuss the potential obstacles, also opportunities ahead of developing resources on Utah's federal lands. 67% of Utah is owned by the federal government. One of the key goals of the agenda is the 30 by 30 plan, which aims to conserve 30% of all federal lands in the U.S. by the year 2030.
We're a little concerned that more designations may be problematic for active management on the landscape. And whether we're talking fire or water quality, air quality, there are a lot of impacts that can happen by having too much designation on a landscape.
That's Reg Johnson. He's the executive director of the governor's Public Lands Policy Office. He says they are in favor of conservation, but the current plans need some clarification.
For years, we had no idea where he was or how he died.
Almost 80 years later, a Utah sailor killed at Pearl Harbor is finally home. Still ahead, how his remains were identified.
Plus, a Kentucky Derby winner disgraced. What consequences Medina Spirit's trainer is now facing after a second failed drug test. Let's take a look at today's vaccine numbers. 2.6 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccine have now been administered here in Utah, and more than 1.2 million Utahns are considered fully vaccinated.
As we consider whether boosters are necessary for the COVID vaccine, researchers are looking at whether we can get vaccines from different drug makers. The National Institutes of Health says Researchers are first studying adult volunteers who have been fully vaccinated. They will receive booster shots of a different vaccine, and researchers will examine safety and immune responses. They'll also look at whether vaccines from the various makers can be mixed to fight COVID variants.
Bob, there were 200 new cases of COVID-19 today in Utah. 3 more Utahns have lost their lives to the virus. The 7-day positivity rate is 6.6%.
In national news, a Tampa, Florida man has become the second rioter to plead guilty in the Capitol insurrection investigation. 38-year-old Paul Hodgkins pleaded guilty to one felony count of obstructing an official proceeding. Hodgkins wore goggles and carried a Trump flag into the Senate chamber on January 6th and was inundated by rioters. As that chamber was inundated by rioters, I should say. He faces 15 to 21 months in prison and thousands of dollars in fines. Lawyers say he has already agreed to pay $2,000 in restitution.
The Kentucky Derby winner has failed now a second drug test, and its trainer has been suspended for 2 years. The test confirms Medina Spirit's system contained more than double the allowable amount of a steroid. In fact, the new test results are even higher than the original testing indicated. Churchill Downs says thoroughbred trainer Bob Baffert is banned from entering horses at any of its races, including the Kentucky Derby, until the end of the 2023 spring meet at Churchill Downs.
In Colorado, tributes to the victims of the mass shooting at a grocery store in Boulder have come down, but they are not being thrown away. The flowers and the messages are going to a museum. Other items, such as crosses, will go to storage. The city of Boulder is still considering how to put in place a permanent memorial to those victims. They plan to work with victim families and the community to determine what's best. Back here at home, Salt Lake City School Board commissioners have voted to give themselves a raise.
And it's a jump. Compensation for each commissioner will be increased from $3,000 to $12,000 a year. Many say it will encourage them to work harder and make a difference in how many jobs they have to work on the side just to make ends meet. But there was still some hesitancy from a few board members.
I'm hesitant to vote for it for the same reasons I was hesitant to vote for a tax increase. I don't feel like maybe this is the year to do it. And then I look around and I see my board colleagues and I see the work you do, each and every one of you, and I value it.
In the end, only one board member, Jenny Sika, voted against the measure. She did not want to comment to reporters.
For the first time, the state will require some employees to work remotely. It's because Utah's air quality is not forecast to be good. The legislature passed a law allowing state employees to telework on bad air days. About 8,600 state workers have been doing their jobs remotely since the pandemic began. About half of them will still be doing it. The state encourages private employers to let employees work remotely because of the air quality.
After finding 2 instances of pet fish being illegally dumped in Utah water bodies this year, the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources is reminding locals that it can not only damage the local ecosystems, it's illegal. The fish were found in central Utah at Highland Glen and Manila Community Ponds. Since 2015, DWR conservation officers have investigated 17 cases of illegally dumped pet fish. That can result in a Class A misdemeanor. We do have more information on how to legally dispose of your pet fish over at fox13now.com.
Well, if you're going to go fishing in the next couple of days, boy, you better take some sunscreen with you, Allison.
Yes, absolutely. We're going to have so much sunshine over the next couple of days. And also that UV index for tomorrow is going to continue to be extreme. So very similar to today, but a little bit hotter even. Zion National Park, a few clouds across southern Utah, but our Old Mill camera, gorgeous views right now. So dry roads for tonight's commute. Grab the sunglasses. Beautiful evening, but just very hot for our temperatures. Our high today here in Salt Lake City has made it to 90 degrees. Now today's record high, 95 degrees, set back in 2012, and this is above average. 79 is a typical high this time of year. That sun will rise tomorrow a little before 6 a.m. and tomorrow first thing in the morning will really be the best time to get outside and do any exercising, but Salt Lake City currently, it's stunning but very warm. Our wind is out of the west and gusting about 20 miles per hour. And as I mentioned, the UV index for tomorrow will be extreme, one of the highest in the country. And this is just the overexposure of that UV radiation, so the harmful UV rays. Tomorrow, make sure that you are avoiding the sun from 11 to 4 if you can. If you have to work outside, I would make sure that you are doing everything you can to stay safe. So sunscreen, more than an SPF 15 broad spectrum, and making sure that you are wearing that throughout the day. Protective eye gear as well, so sunglasses that can also work, and wide-brimmed hats. So just a very hot day tomorrow and a very sunny day tomorrow. The rest of tonight here in Salt Lake, it'll be around 85 degrees through bedtime. By 9-10 o'clock tonight, we are close to 80 degrees. And we do have satellite and radar showing a few clouds mostly south of I-70 and east of I-15 across southern Utah. And the bigger picture showing high pressure is the main story here out west. For tomorrow, though, we will have the chance for a few thunderstorms near the Four Corners and then off into western Nevada. But most of Utah should be staying dry tomorrow. And the Futurecast will keep that chance for a few clouds overnight for southern and eastern Utah. Then tomorrow during the day, a lot of sunshine. And then by tomorrow evening, 7 p.m., that chance for a few thunderstorms in southern Colorado, over into Nevada, and then across eastern Utah might see a few sprinkles. But tomorrow, our temperatures will be in the 60s first thing in the morning and then close to 90 degrees by noon tomorrow. For St. George, we're talking triple digits during the afternoon hours, 90s starting at 11 or noon tomorrow. So it's going to be a mild start first thing tomorrow morning, around 50 to 65. Highs tomorrow will be about 90 to 105 here across the state. St. George, you'll have heat warnings Thursday through Saturday, and then our temperatures will be in the 90s starting next Monday. For Salt Lake City, we're mid to upper 90s through Saturday, and then 80s for Sunday and into next week.
One of the biggest retailers on the planet is easing up on rules for employees. How far Amazon plans to go with its evolving marijuana policy.
And we've got you. When you can't watch Fox 13 News live, you can always watch us streaming online for free. You can find us on Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV. Just search Fox 13 on your device. We'll be right back. In today's Money Watch, you've likely used it. Zoom has been thriving during the pandemic, but things may change, Bob, with workers now heading back to the office.
That's right, Kelly. The company reported a whopping $956 million in revenue in just the first quarter of this year. That's nearly more than triple last year's first quarter revenue. During the first phases of the pandemic, Zoom added millions of new customers who started working and attending school from home. Recently, the company's cloud-based phone services, along with video calls, have also brought in more users. Going forward, Zoom is bracing for a possible drop in clientele as more people head back to the office.
Looking for a job? CarMax wants to fill 1,800 positions by the end of the summer. The used car seller will host a curbside career day at 16 locations on June 10th. CarMax is hiring technicians, detailers, painters, supply associates, and more. The company says it does have opportunities for seasoned as well as entry-level auto professionals, and some openings will be filled right there on the spot, and it gets better. There are signing bonuses for some of those positions as well. CarMax says trained associates will be hired to recondition used cars and then prepare them for sale.
Amazon will no longer test job candidates for marijuana use. The company says it'll instead treat marijuana the same as alcohol use. That means if a position is regulated by the Department of Transportation, testing will still apply. Amazon says the changes come as more states legalize cannabis. The company also plans to support efforts to legalize marijuana nationwide.
And taking a quick look at the closing numbers on Wall Street, here they are. The Dow tacked on 25 points to close at 34,600. The Nasdaq rose 20. The S&P 500 added 6.
A 9-year-old girl and her 4-year-old sister get behind the wheel of their parents' car, headed to California. They got in a head-on collision with a semi, but why police say they were able to walk away without any injuries coming up.
If an earthquake were to happen, the fire chief here says the roof would come down. I'm Erin Cox, and coming up next, I'm going to show you what they're doing to fix this problem and why surrounding neighbors don't like the solution.
To do what she did is really impressive. Scary, but impressive.
Oh man, very scary. Two sisters, ages 9 and 4, now back home this evening, safe and uninjured after taking their parents' car on a wild ride very early today. That trip ended in a head-on collision with a semi-truck.
Fox 13's Spencer Joseph has more from investigators on this unusual case and how the two children walked away unharmed.
The two told police on scene this morning that they were headed to California to go to the beach, getting a scary distance away from home before getting involved in this crash.
It's like we have an accident on South Greenwich and 32 West. Like I said, the driver's an 8-year-old.
Very odd. I mean, we certainly don't get that call very often.
A 9-year-old and their 4-year-old sibling who were driving a vehicle went head-on with a semi.
This is what officers saw in the initial moments of a scary head-on crash with the semi.
She's driving?
Officers can't believe what they see. The driver of the car, a 9-year-old girl with her 4-year-old sister in tow.
There's no history of this. This is, a motivated kid that really, what I understand, wanted to go swim with dolphins in the ocean.
Their destination, California, before the crash cut their trip short. Thankfully, no one was injured.
Airbags deployment, both patients alpha condition.
This accident taking place at about 5:05 in the morning.
There were no injuries. They just want to make contact with the parents and see if they can respond to the kids.
Their parents weren't even awake yet.
Copy, I'll be en route.
Woken up by officers at their door telling them what happened.
They were shocked. They had no idea.
After police pieced it together, the girls left at about 3 in the morning.
They walked towards the car, and about 4:30 is about the time they figured out how to drive the car and left the driveway.
It's not known what route they took, but they were on the road for about half an hour before crashing.
Traversing many roads and miles away from home.
Neither of the girls had ever shown any sign that they wanted to do anything like this. And as for their parents, they're just glad both are okay.
I think it's one of those things that, it could have happened to any of us, I think.
Thankfully, as we told you, there were no injuries and they were able to walk away unscathed. Police say the reason for this, even though they're 9 and 4 years old, both of them were wearing their seatbelts. In West Jordan, Spencer Joseph, Fox 13 News. Utah.
I'm glad they're okay. Fox 13 News has just received a statement from a spokesperson from the Yellow Trucking Company, the operators of that semi-truck, just saying that they are glad that the two little girls are okay. New at 5:30, the Logan Fire Department needs a new building after realizing the current station would not survive an earthquake like the one that hit Magna last year.
Fox 13's Erin Cox spoke with the fire chief today and the business owners who would also be affected.
The station these firefighters returned to has been here since the 70s.
I'm sure we weren't trendsetters.
The age of the building shows on the outside and within.
In the early 2000s, there was a seismic upgrade to the station. They got it up to what they consider a life safety level. We were told that we would get out with injury, that there could be a partial, maybe not a full collapse, but that the station would not be occupiable after an earthquake.
Reinforcements were patched into the ceiling and plastered onto the pillars.
There's those fiberglass unions, and then there's some angle iron that they used on the bottom floors.
And in the basement, supportive plaques are in place.
Honestly, a little more scared. If this wall fails, that really doesn't help us much.
Fire Chief Brad Hanig says they've been working the past 18 months to find a new place altogether rather than continue placing Band-Aids on their own station.
We're in the business of seconds. When you move a fire station, you change response times.
That's why Chief Hanig looked to the city-owned parking lot next door.
That just seemed like the least impactful from the taxpayer standpoint.
One of the plans proposed by the fire department is to keep their old building where it is and build on this parking lot here. The business owners say that could leave them without 40 stalls permanently.
I don't see how most of us would stay afloat.
Jason Holmes relies on the parking lot.
Who would want to come to an event venue when they can't park?
And across the street, so does Sarah Colson.
Nobody wants it in their backyard until they need them. Well, they're already in our backyard, and we 100% support them. We just, if they go right there, they'll be in our kitchen.
Colson started a petition that has more than 500 signatures.
That parking lot is used so much.
Chief Hanig hopes to find a compromise that can benefit both.
Time is of the essence to us.
And also save the lives of his crew and the ones they rescue.
The station has been located within a half a block of this location for the last 140 years.
In Logan, Aaron Cox, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Now, we reached out to Logan Mayor Holly Daines for comment on the fire station. Her office told us she was in meetings all day and would not be able to respond to our request.
Nearly 80 years later, the family of a Utah sailor who died at Pearl Harbor now gets to say goodbye.
Fox 13's Sydney Glenn takes us to Delta, where Navy radioman 3rd Class Theodore Jensen was laid to rest today.
We're honoring Theodore Q. Jensen. He was killed on the USS Oklahoma.
A goodbye 80 years in the making.
For years, we had no idea where he was or how he died.
Theodore Q. Jensen was killed at Pearl Harbor.
He gave his life voluntarily with no hesitation, and it means a lot.
Jensen, Post 117.
Today, this sailor got his proper burial, with loved ones and strangers honoring his sacrifice.
It's wonderful to be able to celebrate like that boy. I'm sure glad they found him.
Through Delta, Jensen was led here by Patriot Guard riders.
We had people stop their cars, get out, put their hand over their heart. That gets you kind of emotional.
People waved their flags high, hands over their hearts, to bring him home.
It's hallelujah time, because I was thinking there how excited they'd be to have him come home after all these years.
The proper goodbye for a man who gave his life for our freedom.
We got to remember him. We wouldn't have our freedoms without those men and women.
Jensen is one of many service members whose remains have been identified through DNA decades later and are now able to get that burial that they always deserved. In Delta, Sydney Glenn, Fox 13 News, Utah.
In 1947, the military started the process of trying to identify the remains of fallen sailors from Pearl Harbor, but it wasn't until last December that Theodore Jensen's remains were positively identified using the DNA tests Sydney mentioned and dental records as well.
There is a new commander in charge of the 388th Fighter Wing at Hill Air Force Base. We'll introduce you to him coming up.
And Pride-themed crosswalks have been unveiled at the Gateway. Who helped to design the contemporary look as part of Utah Pride Week?
Plus, I am tracking dangerous heat and also air quality tomorrow that'll make it into the orange level. I'll let you know where. Coming up, we're back in 60 seconds.
Hill Air Force Base is welcoming a new wing commander for the 388th Fighter Wing. This morning, Colonel Craig R. Anderl assumed command of the Air Force's only combat-capable F-35, a Lightning II unit. He was previously the vice commander of the 388th Fighter Wing. He joined the Air Force 21 years ago. He is a command pilot with more than 3,500 hours in both the F-16 as well as the F-35A. That's a lot of hours to log there. He graduated from the University of Iowa and Air Command and Staff College. Family and friends gathered today to celebrate the start of his new assignment.
This community around Hill Air Force Base in Utah here is just outstanding. The support that we get from not only the civic leaders, but just everybody that you see out and about is amazing. And I want them to know that we're ready. We're always ready to go do what our nation asks us to do to defend America and to take the fight wherever we need to take it, whenever we need to.
Thank you for your service there. Colonel Andrew is taking over as Colonel Stephen Beamer leaving to serve at the Pentagon. Andrew says he is grateful for Colonel Beamer's mentorship. Andrew will hold this position for the next 2 years.
The Gateway in downtown Salt Lake has unveiled its Pride-themed crosswalks. The annual art installation remains up for the entire month of June as part of National Pride Month and was unveiled yesterday in conjunction with other Utah Pride Week events. The crosswalk art is designed every year by the Gateway Art Coalition and painted by local artists.
The Gateway does this as a tradition just to make sure that everybody feels welcome, and we love the opportunity to be able to amplify people's voices that need it most.
The Gateway will also highlight members of the LGBTQ+ community on its social media channels this week as part of its Walk with Pride initiative. To see who has been featured so far, go to fox13now.com. The Pride Interfaith Service is making its return tonight as a virtual event. 5 different faiths will celebrate in a service of song, prayer, and inspiration. Guest speaker Angie Rice will share her story of transitioning and coming out. If you'd like to attend, go to fox13now.com.
I had walked into my honey house, and one of my workers was cracking open a container of honey. And, you know, I walked in and I said, who's eating maple bacon?
It started as an agricultural mystery, but it's much more than that. What researchers have uncovered about what's behind this new honey taste.
Could Danny Ainge work for the Jazz one day after retiring from the Celtics? We'll hear from the former BYU great coming up in sports. And a big night for the Jazz as they try to advance to the second round of the playoffs. We'll tell you how Royce O'Neal has played a big role.
As nice start up by.
For thousands of years, humans have enjoyed eating honey produced by the humble honeybee.
But recently, some beekeepers started noticing something strange about the honey coming from their bee colonies. As Maya Rodriguez explains, what began as a bad situation turned into something surprisingly good.
In the world of honeybees, it's all the buzz.
There seems to be no end in sight.
An agricultural mystery as complex as a beehive.
It's never boring.
For 10 years, the Philadelphia Bee Company and owner Don Shump
You can literally go up and pet them.
have faithfully tended to their beehives, selling the honey produced to the public. And then one day,
I'd walked into my honey house, and one of my workers was cracking open a container of honey. And, you know, I walked in and I said, who's eating maple bacon?
no one was. The unusual smell was coming from the honey.
So I'd given it a taste, and I was like, I don't know what this is.
Other beekeepers in the area started noticing the same thing in their honey.
And we sent our honey samples up to the labs to determine what it is, to try to do some sleuthing.
The agricultural detective called in to help? Robin Underwood of Penn State University.
We launched an investigation to look at where this strange new honey was coming from.
After multiple tests, including running a DNA profile on the honey, the culprit turned out to be this, the lanternfly. It's an invasive species from Asia that began appearing in the Philadelphia area several years ago and has now spread to multiple states. Lanternflies can be destructive, potentially responsible for hundreds of millions of dollars in agricultural damage.
What they're really interested in is sucking out plant sap,
which is where the honeybees come in, accessing what the lanternflies have left behind and adding it to their honey.
We do know that it's safe for people to eat, and it's safe for honeybees as well.
The middle of Philadelphia isn't exactly the kind of place where you'd expect an agricultural drama to play out, but that's exactly what happened. And the result has been delicious. The Philadelphia Bee Company calls the new honey flavor the Doom Bloom.
And it got paired with the blue cheese, and people went nuts over it. They loved it. And so at that point, I said, well, we might have something here.
But there's no love lost for the lanternfly.
They're a horrible invasive species, and they're not something we want around here. However, you know, if we can take advantage of them however we can until we can get rid of them, then, you know, we'll make good on a bad thing.
A bad thing turned tasty. In Philadelphia, I'm Maya Rodriguez.
I think it would be good. Honey with a slight bacon maple.
Yeah, but you get rid of the lanternfly, and there goes the maple bacon honey.
I know.
You know?
That's true.
So...
Well, I'm always just trying to figure out, is this a bee because those are important, or is this just a wasp that could hurt me?
No, those are honeybees.
No, I know. I'm talking about like when I'm out, on the patio or something.
Trying to distinguish.
Yeah, because we don't want to hurt the bees. We need the bees, right? So here across Utah, our air quality forecast for tomorrow. Unhealthy for sensitive groups, a mandatory action day for Salt Lake County. If your company is letting people work from home on bad air quality days and you live in Salt Lake or work in Salt Lake, I suppose, maybe a good idea to ask if you can enact that for tomorrow. Now for Friday, it's voluntary action and it's back to moderate air for Salt Lake County, but the heat, I think, will keep a lot of you inside over the next couple of days. Right now, 100 degrees in St. George with your wind out of the southwest, 15 miles per hour. Salt Lake City right now, it is 90. 91 was our daytime high, so above average, not quite a record, but we have more records on the way. The wind right now is about 20 miles per hour. Let's talk about a few more things that could impact you. So we mentioned the air quality and then allergies. If you've been struggling, oak and plantain are both high today. Grass, moderate, and molds at a low level. Next couple of days, chance for a few isolated thunderstorms during the afternoon hours, but the heat will be our biggest concern for southern Utah, Lake Powell area over towards Washington County. An excessive heat warning will start tomorrow at noon and go until Saturday at 10 p.m. For northern Utah, we'll have from Friday to Saturday a heat advisory until Saturday at 6 a.m. This does include the Wasatch Front, so our popular cities, or our more populated cities, that's the best way to say that. We're going to have for Friday afternoon, Friday night, very hot conditions. So keep that in mind. Right now, our temperatures here across the state are about 90. So it is a very hot afternoon. And our fire weather forecast for the next couple of days, we will see some elevated fire areas down in southern Utah tomorrow afternoon, but it's not going to be a widespread issue here across the state. But of course, still be really careful the next few days. We are going to keep this heat around through this weekend, and then by middle of next week, potentially our wind picks back up, but we're going to mostly keep that. As of right now, it looks like that trough will stay off to our northwest through at least the end of next week. Potentially, the middle of the week could see a few impacts in the form of wind, but still too far out right now beyond the 7-day forecast to be able to know for sure, but that is something I will watch for you. Overnight temps will be around 60 to 70 first thing tomorrow morning, and then by tomorrow afternoon, it's going to be a hot one. By 5 p.m., 95 for Salt Lake, 93 for Ogden, mid-80s for Park City, St. George, 102. St. George, you're going to be very hot the next couple of days, close to 105 through Saturday, still triple digits on Sunday, and then mid to upper 90s Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week. Salt Lake, a brief cool down as we head into Sunday and Monday, but it's still going to be very hot next week, still around 90. So mid 90s for Thursday, Friday, tracking record temperatures. We're going to keep this heat around for quite a while. And then the UV index for tomorrow will yet again be extreme. So try to avoid that sun from tomorrow from 11 a.m. until 4 p.m. if you can, and make sure you're wearing sunscreen and protective eye gear.
Job's not done. It's not finished. And I think that's the message. I know that's the message. 1 through 17 and coaches and everybody. We have to go there and take care of home court back in Utah. And I think that's where our head is at.
That's Donovan Mitchell after the Jazz won Game 4 on Monday, taking 3-1 lead over the Memphis Grizzlies in their first-round playoff series. They can close it out tonight with a win at home. Fox 13's Morgan Vance joins us live from Vivint Arena with more. Hey, Morgan.
What's going on, Jeff? Yeah, you need Donovan to lead. That's obvious. Rudy and Mike Conley as well. But for the Jazz to win, you need the complementary pieces to show up. And Royce O'Neal is the perfect complementary piece. Take Game 4, for example. O'Neal, or as I call him, starter number 5, did his typical thing on defense. 9 boards, 3 steals, often locking down the opponent's best offensive player as well. But he also knocked down a handful of 3-point shots to help the Jazz fend off the Grizzlies yet again. Head coach Quinn Snyder says says Royce's nightly contribution is essential to what this team is.
You know, this playoffs, trying to take it to the next level, you know, offensively and defensively. If they're going to help off me, you know, try to make them pay, you know, not getting over shots, you know, create offense for everybody else. So just being confident, really.
You know, we have a lot of confidence in Royce. You know, he's finding a balance offensively between, you know, being aggressive and taking a shot when he's open, being a playmaker and moving the ball. He's just such a competitor, and he's a smart player. So I think, when you have that mindset that you want to impact the game, you know, any way you can, that's what we see from him consistently.
Should the Jazz end this series tonight in 5 games, either the Clippers or the Mavericks would await next. That first round series also resumes tonight, though that one tied at 2. From the Viv, Morgan Vance, Fox 13 Sports.
Former BYU great Danny Ainge has retired as Boston Celtics president of basketball operations. Head coach Brad Stevens is being promoted into that position. Could Danny work for the Jazz? He is friends with Jazz owner Ryan Smith, so it is a possibility. The 62-year-old, though, said he started thinking about retirement when he had a mild heart attack in 2019.
The basketball is fun. I love basketball. It's been part of my whole life. And been in professional sports for 44 straight years. And I've had a lot of ups and downs and fun and sad losses. But I feel like there's so much hope in the Celtics going forward.
It has a lot of ties here in Utah. Maybe it could be a great addition someday. We'll be right back.
As we look at the valley, this is a gorgeous shot. It is. From our Intermountain camera.
I was trying to find the pickleball courts from this camera.
I see the baseball field.
I was like, is it crowded?
Yeah.
A few people out there on the field.
You can see summer is just about here, folks.
Feels
Isn't
like
here?
it.
When does it start?
Well, later this month.
Okay.
It's coming. See you back here tonight at 9.